Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review, your source for an economic perspective on salient current events impacting our public policy, our economic outcomes, and our overall society. Welcome. There was once a time in American history when a person could look one another in the eye, shake their hand, and know that their word is their bond. For most people, their commitment means something. Their promises define their trustworthiness. For a few bad apples, their word only is a means to get what they need in the moment, and commitment is fleeting. That is one of the main reasons contracts are needed in the modern world. In the complex and dynamic modern economy, there are too many moving parts to leave critical business engagements to be decided by the possible misinterpretation of one's responsibilities and commitments in the partnerships, although the verbiage of agreements can cloud that to some degree. The whole idea of having an agreement in place is that each party clearly understands what they are agreeing to and what their partners are committing to. And, most importantly, what will happen in the event that one party decides to exit the partnership or is in breach of what they promised to contribute. It helps set aside the emotions of the moment and protect the rights of both sides in the event the negative happens. No reasonable person goes into an agreement with the intention of seeing it fail, or planning ahead to shirk their responsibilities. Many times the breaches or issues are a result of changes in the economic or social environment that either side operates in, or exposure to events that directly impacts one party's ability to fulfill their commitment. Sometimes the expectations at the beginning simply do not come to reality, so the party expecting a better return may lack the resources they expected to have. Business arrangements are always at the risk of market behaviors or shifts in public policy. Let us look at the recent free agent issues in the NFL. The Las Vegas Raiders had an agreement in place, pending the start of a new league year, to trade their star defensive end to the Baltimore Ravens. While the agreement was still in the pending phase, the market changed and the Ravens had what appears to be a change of heart. The Ravens did nothing technically wrong. No trade or pending contract was able to be finalized until a couple days later, so they had an unexpected opportunity that had a better upside and found a way to exit the trade. That is what the situation looks like, which may not be the case. It could be the physical discoveries, but most likely a combination of the new information changed the risk they were willing to accept. The Raiders and the other potential trade partners shifted quickly and consummated other pending contracts that were also in the limbo state. So, the collective bargaining agreements and operational agreements that teams and players operate under guide what was possible. While this may seem shady or harmful, the Ravens were well within the rules. They had new information and adjusted their decision-making. That is actually good business decision-making. This is why companies usually include breakup fees if pending mergers do not come to fruition, like with the Netflix failed acquisition. Not really a failure, because Netflix had a clause that they would get $2.8 billion if the deal fell through or if Warner went with another suitor. Now, the impetus for this topic was from the football world as well. The tabloid press and social media pundits had a field day with the news of Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott and his fiancée ending their engagement over a reported disagreement over a prenuptial agreement. This is not a discussion about them. Hope they both find an amicable resolution that meets their future needs as co-parents. This generated many interesting discussions about the controversial prenup that many couples struggle over and some find so egregious on principle, not practicality. I heard a person who I respect his opinions talk about the agreement being an acknowledgement of the potential of failure from the start. So why have one, and if you need one, maybe you should not be getting married. Others took the position that based on the financial prowess of either person prior to the marriage, it makes sense that the person that earned the money or built the businesses would be protected in the event that the marriage fails. There are some real examples of thriving businesses being harmed because of divorces, and the leadership culture devolves in chaos. From the business's perspective, there is a risk to their operations if something that they have no real involvement with fails. Emotions impacting business decisions is never good, especially if one side is looking to maximize returns and the other protecting information from the other. It can harm the livelihoods of others not in that marriage. Like any agreement, the terms that exist in the documents are usually what will make it beneficial or harmful. Negotiating the terms may be stressful and raise questions that no one wants to answer or acknowledge. Many times the what-ifs can feel personal or make you look at the other side differently because you now know what the other person is thinking. Back to why you have contracts, the purpose is for the emotions to not dictate the outcomes and for fair and equitable outcomes. In the heat of a divorce, regardless of the reason, there needs to be fair outcomes that protect both sides. But the emotions can cloud judgment. While trying to wrap their minds around what is happening, they are thrust into unwinding decisions made over a lifetime. A prenup could remove those emotions and simply give a prescription of how to unwind it fairly, like a will does for the people impacted by a death of a loved one. It's hard to make decisions while in grief. That is why wills and other documents are helpful. Still, not an easy thing to do or process to go through. Sometimes people want to go into things without having all the answers. In certain circumstances, it may make perfect sense to protect premarital assets in the event of the unwanted negative happens. People change over time. It may make sense to protect third parties as well as the two in the marriage from unnecessary harm.
Contracts do have the ability to make outcomes more equitable and business relationships more even-handed. A big factor lies in how the agreements are constructed. In many business agreements, the terms can be anchored on the side who crafted the template used in negotiations. The legal that is crafting the agreement template has a slight advantage in holding firm to the base language. Some agreements are not as fair as they could be because of the environment that one party may be experiencing at the time of negotiation. Consider how many of those healthcare contracts during the pandemic were heavily biased towards the vendors, who had all the leverage. Many of them included unreasonable commitments that were not realistic. But health systems had no choice. The quality of the agreement is usually determined by the quality in negotiation as well as the ability for one side to hold firm the longest. Good negotiations tend to be where people try to find solutions rather than cajoling the other side to give in. Either way, the important thing is that you get what you need and avoid what is most catastrophic in the terms. In respect to the prenup, I can understand the notion to protect premarital assets. No one wants to see something they spent their whole life building be impacted because their marriage fell apart. In the same manner, most people do not want to see a marriage fall apart because of outside responsibilities either. Protecting the interests of those third-party individuals who may be harmed is important. Why the agreement can be very controversial, especially for a person who may be a spouse in the position of a wife of an athlete or celebrity, is how they are valued at the end, if the marriage fails. Many times the non-breadwinner may be in a situation where they are a homemaker, as their other half is not home to balance out the domestic responsibilities. If after 5, 10, 20 or 30 years, how is that person, either a husband or wife, valued when the breadwinner has their assets protected and now can walk away from the person without economic assets to live from? How scary is that feeling? No one wants to face that risk or instability. While there is a risk for the breadwinner, there is a need to protect the interests of the person who may have had to set aside their hopes, dreams, and aspirations to make the marriage work for the time that it did. Again, the devil is in the details. A fair agreement could be reached. But you could imagine how one would be hesitant if they are going in without the ability to be a co-contributor by the situation.
I am not sure if the abundance of information available to each one of us each and every day is helpful or harmful. Having information is supposed to help us make better decisions and choices in our professional and personal lives, be able to better understand the choice sets and proceed more confidently. Instead, many seem to be overwhelmed with information at times and sometimes have irrational fears because of what is put out there, which may be exaggerated or simply dishonest. The ability to filter information is the key needed component. What good is having an abundance of information at your fingertips if you are not able to make accurate decisions or conclusions or trust what you are seeing? A big problem around the impact that artificial intelligence will have on our society is still raging. Some impacts are realistic. Others seem far-fetched to some degree. Many projections are heavily reliant on constraints that have a less than likely probability than some pundits acknowledge, contingent on events in between now and the projection that are either unknown or not addressed. Do I believe that artificial intelligence will impact our workforce? Yes, we are already seeing it happen to a degree, but will it deem every worker useless? No. I think artificial intelligence will make redundant tasks or non-value-added work automated so workers can focus on the actual reason why they were hired. Now, there are certain types of work that will be completely susceptible. Any labor-intensive work that can be automated will likely be made to go the way of the dodo. For instance, toll collectors can be replaced, like they did in New York and in other nations. Cashiers are largely going the same direction once stores can solve the theft issues around self-checkout. Many other career fields still require human decision-making and skill that has not quite been mastered by artificial intelligence. For instance, using artificial intelligence in the supply chain world is very helpful, but it can provide questionable results based on the data or inputs, where experienced staff understand the causes and have more insightful projects. But technology does help.
One aspect to consider is how people make themselves susceptible to technological changes even without artificial intelligence. Technology does not exploit situations to go on strike and drive the cost of doing business up without increases in productivity. Technology does not gossip, create toxic workplaces, or disrupt coworkers. Technology has always been the preferred solution for any organization to address the challenges from the human element. Low-skilled, low-wage workers slowing work or showing up late and leaving early. Workers showing bias in whose tasks are done when. In certain fields, the worker behaviors, attitudes, and production can determine whether technology is the better option. For companies that struggle to find staff or their current staff leave not flattering messages in social media circles. The lack of available talent will lead to technology to address the productivity needs. The profitability and stability gained will influence operational decisions by companies that people like to work at to do the same to avoid being at a cost disadvantage. While people should have their voices heard and treated like an asset, there needs to be a realization that the answer is not always in favor of the worker, but in the entity that found the tech solution to afford the organization the ability to meet its objectives. This is not only going to be a response to labor instability, but to public policy that harms profitability for franchises. Look at fast food places, pharmacies, and other places that keep the headcount down with the use of automation and technology. While ensuring fair wages is important, protecting employment is also something that needs to be a goal.
The impact technology has on low-wage and low-skilled positions in commoditized environments is undeniable, but there are still jobs in those markets and a need to have people oversee the technology and work. The natural response to a wage increase would be to find the staff that is high quality, pay them more, implement new technology, and release the rest of the workers. May seem harsh, but adding cost without the ability to increase revenues is not good business. It is something that is anticipated. Now, technology causes changes in both good ways as well. How many people now have alternate income avenues without having to work in a corporate environment? The gig economy has allowed a good amount of people to not have to become cogs in the corporate economy and find more suitable means of earning a living. So many people are earning a living doing things that were not really possible before technology gave everyone a platform and opportunity to monetize if they could. Rather than fear artificial intelligence, embrace the potential and find your path in the economy. Try to envision what the new normal may become and determine what your fit might be. If you are an office clerk or data entry person, then you might be fearful that your position may become expendable. Maybe there is an opportunity to code, or find opportunities to analyze data using technologies and convert those findings into value-driven solutions to add to the bottom line of your employers. Holding on to the status quo is not the productive path. Finding what could be next may be the real choice.
Technology has always driven change and benefited those who embrace change to find their path forward. That is what many people will have to do in the near future. Some businesses are overreacting to the potential of artificial intelligence, which may be more of a cost-cutting need instead of an actual benefit from the transition. I think it is a bit far-fetched to believe we will be ruled by technology in the next decade. Terminator is a great movie series, but I do not think it will happen. People may grow too reliant on technology, or incapable of making life decisions without checking what ChatGPT or Gemini think. We are already seeing that. Too many people use artificial intelligence to make basic decisions, which can be helpful as advice, but not the sole determining factors. Some use artificial intelligence instead of actual informed professionals to their detriment. How many people rely on the advice of social media to run their lives? There will always be the maladjusted who cannot balance reality with new technology. The important aspect is helping to educate as many of them as possible, but also allow for people to find new paths forward. Entrepreneurship has seemed to be the better response to tech changes than accommodating public policy. Just realize that many drivers for tech changes are the actions, attitudes, and choices by the people in the impacted fields. And be able to understand what the expected responses are if you are in a field that may seem susceptible to such changes. In the future, we are going to discuss the impact that technology may have on institutions like legal work, healthcare, academia, and other fields.
The Christopher Peter Review provides an economic perspective on salient current events that impact our public policy, our economic outcomes, and our overall society. The great content focuses on providing ideas that create the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. There are many additional political and social perspectives that are out there that should be discussed as well. That will help to ensure the greatest number of people actually benefit, which is what you will have a chance to experience going forward on the series C, R, C on YouTube.
Perspectives from the various ideological leanings in America, as well as perspectives from sectors of our great society, will be shared in this new series. A political and economic discussion is helpful in gaining insight from a perspective of what is happening and what the optimal outcome is. That is what economists like Christopher and Jennifer do very well. Now, let us supplement that with what people are thinking to show why what people think is so easy is actually much more difficult than we think. We look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you. The goal for the Christopher Peter Review and the network as a whole is to provide content that is informative and thought-inspiring. This extension should be an interesting supplement to our podcast. In closing, the more you plan ahead, the better off you will be. Contracts are difficult and at times you wonder why the focus is on situations that may never be experienced. But being prepared for the negative outcome can be just as valuable as preparing for the upside. People do not want to fail and sometimes fool themselves into thinking that you can avoid failure by not acknowledging the possibility. But being able to understand the potential downside of any event and being able to mitigate the worst-case scenarios is very helpful. That is why we have insurance contracts. The hardest thing is when the situation involves us personally and makes us look beyond the good feelings. In the moments of high emotional stress, sometimes having a prescribed path can make a big difference, especially if it adequately protects both sides. People change over time, and there is a need to ensure that all can be intact afterwards. We should not fear addressing possible negative events, or fear technological changes that could impact us without any fault of our own. Like any change, being prepared and aware can make all the differences. Thank you for experiencing this episode of the Christopher Peter Review. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. Please follow the Christopher Peter Review on social media and continue to visit www.crcreview.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time.